Right, that should be me on. There we go.
Callum.
How you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, not too bad. What about yourself?
Busy, as you can see behind me, doing work
Yeah.
in the house. So
What's
I'm
that you're
busy.
doing?
So um, I'm doing the ensuite. I'm gutting out the ensuite in the house. Um, well, it's the parents' house, but I'm gutting out the ensuite in the house, and it's a new build, and they only put 6 mil cable in. So I'm just thinking for anything that's ever to happen, I think just get a 10 mil in there and that will give me peace of mind and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh,
So
blimey. Are you
yeah, so
you in
that
the ensuite at the moment then?
no, so I'm just in one of in the spare room.
Oh, okay.
So I've had to come in here, but this room's the one that got battered because I had to that made sense. So below that's the stairs. So I thought, well, if I can get to that stud wall, straight downstairs, straight into the box, into the to the board. So absolute nightmare. But never buy a new build, basically.
No, I mean I hear yeah bad things with new builds. Like we recently moved March this year, and like
Yeah.
that didn't even come into our thoughts to get a new build because you just hear awful things about them, don't
it,
you?
I mean, for convenience, it's good, but I mean, like now when they get this idea that they want to renovate and stuff, I'm like, okay, I'll prep as much as I can before getting someone in, and I'm like,
Right.
6 mil cable, lovely. This is probably why there's been like 3 replacement showers in the last 8 years. It's like
Yeah.
that probably explains a lot.
Blimey. Oh, mate, before we get into it, I
Yeah,
just want to double check. Do you mind if I record this call and potentially use it on the website?
yeah, that'll be fine.
Is that all right, mate? I mean,
Yeah, that'll be
what I can
fine.
do, I can send the recording to you
Hmm.
prior, just so you can sort of proof it
Yeah,
before I do that. But that'd be great, mate. If you don't
yeah.
mind. But yeah, so mate, what? So how did it go? That previous, well, the second
Um,
interview.
so the second call was a lot different than I expected. So well, it wasn't even like a proceeding, like an interview call or anything. It was literally a call to say, I am like the hiring manager X, Y, and Z. And he's like, then there was like a pause. And he's like, and I've heard good things. So it then
Really
went, yeah, it just
nice.
went straight into it. So it was almost like the decision was made after the first bit, and the second call was just basically like to break common ground, if that makes sense. Um,
Right.
and he just basically introduced who he was, his background, how he got into the trade, and then sort of the plans going forward for me, and what he sort of saw in me is what he has in himself, if that makes sense. So his route, so
Right.
he come on as an improver, and then gradually, within 3 years, he's now managing the role which he
Bloody.
was originally a approver for. So
Was he an
yeah.
ex-Sparks then?
Yeah, so he worked at Alton Towers, so the Sparks at Alton Towers, worked on that kind of sort of setup.
Yeah.
Um, moved over into like a bit more in-depth controls with Equan, and then yeah, came on as an improver, and then within 3 years, he's just
Yeah.
gradually, and now he's like manager of an area. So
Did he
yeah,
tell you what his progression looked like from an improver? Then where did he go? And then from there, where did he go?
it was all with Equans. So he
But
came
like
on.
within, in terms of roles, I'm just interested to
Oh,
see.
okay. Well, from what I described, he was put with someone who's quite senior in the role, who kind of, well, I would imagine, taught him the role a bit more in depth. Um, and from what he said, that's basically how it went. And the more experience he got, he just went into a sort of senior role, if that's, I guess, in what you could call it for him. He didn't
Did
really
he
specify any roles,
okay.
but yeah, he never really specified any role. But he just said he came as an improver from Alton Towers. So sort of like me, he had knowledge about everything, but Equan just thought, let's take him down this route, and that's the route he eventually went. And yeah, and then from an improver, I'm guessing he's just like a normal sort of regular worker, and then he went to a senior level, and then he's probably took this manager role. So yeah, so and he likened that in terms of like my situation, so he could see that I'm not a bunny hopper into different employers and whatnot. I'll do the length of time there as long as I see it fit. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's what he mentioned to me that about my CV that he could see I'll commit years to a company where I see value. So, and that's exactly for him. So he's only recently just been a manager. So I will be his first sort of
Right.
hire. So yeah,
You better be well behaved for him
I
then,
know.
Callum.
I've got a lot on my shoulders now.
But that's good, man. I mean, if you're the first person that he's really going to be managing, then that's potential opportunity for you, to progress. If you get on the right
Yeah,
side of him, you do a good job for him. You don't, not that you will, mate, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
Like, don't make his life easy. He wanna move you up if he can.
yeah. I mean, he spoke about stuff like learning like more Niagara systems and he said in his circumstance, it was almost after like a year where he started to ask the question, and they were like, "Yeah, okay, let's get you involved in." But it's like that first year. It was almost like he felt like to the company, they were finding out whether he needs to prove himself to sort of see if he's going to stay with us or is he just going to take what
Yeah,
he can, and then sort of bounce really and get out of there. Because initially I'll do like the foundation BCIA stuff, which I mean they're
yeah.
funding for it, but um, that's I'm guessing what they were looking at. Is he just going to take the foundation courses and then bounce, or is he? And then yeah, and he said after a year he asked the question, and yeah, and then they put him through a lot more training, and then I'm guessing obviously with a lot more training, a lot more exposure experience, and yeah, here he is today.
Because you got to think about it, not you specifically, but just generally think about it from, the business's perspective, whether it's a big business or small business. If they invest a hell of a lot into your training, like putting you through Niagara and all the trend stuff, and
Yeah,
then you've got all that, that knowledge, those certifications, those licenses, and you just bounce after, less than a
yeah,
year, they've invested all of that and they're not getting any return from you. So it is a bit, I mean, people do it because there's lots of opportunities out there, but
yeah,
it's a bit harsh, really.
yeah, yeah. Which is what, to be fair, which is what he kind of mentioned. Like he kind of, whereas like you're hearing some companies where they're blind to the fact that once you've got certain qualifications that they won't meet the industry standard, and he was kind of basically honest, like in saying, um, once you have got experience and you have say two years under your belt and you have got Niagara sort of experience, he goes, the world's pretty much yours after that point. So he says that as a company they recognise that um, at that point it's more about retention of good employees than just trying to keep you afloat and keep you within the industry. Because like I said, um, it's an easy market out there once you've got that under your belt. So they are like aware to it, and compared to say others, say like even now like the electrical industry, where you can have every qualification and they'll pay you at like a bog standard, if that makes sense. And you're like, well, if I go here, I can earn this, and here I can earn this, and it's yeah. So it's nice to
What,
hear
how
that they
did,
are aware.
yeah, how did the conversation go then? Did they talk about your progression then? So you come on as a improver, and how does that look for you? And how did they say the
Yeah,
development goes?
yeah. They, so they, like I said, he just started the phone call. And was like, well, I've heard good things, and obviously from the previous interview, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. And then yeah, and he says, so how the outlook would be, coming on as an improver, and say for the first 3 months, I'd be paired up with someone. So the person who the proposal at the minute to pair me up with is the person that trained him. So it sounds like I'm in good hands at
Okay.
the minute. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
sounds like I'm in
Yeah.
good hands. So yeah, so I'd be paired up with him, and that would be for the first 3 months. So I'm guessing like a probation period kind of thing. And yeah, and I think the sort of improver role. So he said from his sort of example, it was about 6 months. He was looked at as an improver, and then after about 6 months, things kind of started to change, and he had a lot more responsibilities, and then it kind of just leveled itself out. And he said, and in the end, I was one of the lads basically. I was no longer
Yeah.
looked as like the improver and whatnot. Um, so yeah, so in terms of like what the proposal was for me was literally kind of what mimicked his sort of route. Um, Initial improver, say about 6 months, like a 3 month probation period. And then after that, they ideally want me to start, going further, probably looking into like Niagara system and things like that. So it's and I touched base with him about the more sort of senior level on trend systems and stuff like that. And he was like, "Yeah, we don't expect you to know that at this bit." So I was kind of glad to hear that. But again,
Yeah.
he says after like the deeper you go in, and he was saying like after sort of like 6 months, maybe 8 months, you'll start like delving more into that, and it will become second nature to you because you'll be surrounded by it all the time. So I was kind of yeah. So it's like good exposure at the same time.
So yeah, for the first 3 months, you're going to be shadowing slash working with someone. Someone's going to be sort of
Yeah,
helping you get up to speed, and then like, around the 6 month mark, you just kind of be on your own
yeah,
doing stuff, and then start developing sort of from there into doing more software related stuff.
yeah,
Did what does the did he say what the day to day looks like? For the first
yes.
year.
So pretty much, well, you said the pretty much the overview of the role is PPM and reactive maintenance kind of environment with sort of call out aspects to it. And he said day to day, he said it can be repetitive, but it can also not be repetitive because it could be a reactive that's thrown in there. But
Yeah,
day to
yeah,
day, that's what he was saying. To sell up to the first initial bit, like I said, with those BCIA courses involved in the beginning, he says it could be one week I'm doing just BCIA stuff, and then the next week I'm out in the field, and then the third week I'm back in BCIA, and
yeah,
fourth week I'm out in the field. So he says it's going to be a bit chop and change at the start from doing all your courses and then company courses just to say you're approved in the company and whatnot, and um, devices and security and all that saga. And then yeah, following that, that's the sort of working environment I'll be in. So GPM and reactive basically. So I could be on there's sites across so where I am in the Midlands, and they're all government sites. So they're like
right, yeah,
MOJ sites, MOD sites, a few gov sites. So it's pretty much similar to what I'm doing now. So yeah,
yeah. Mate, the beauty of starting out doing like service, maintenance, like reactive repair and stuff is like you just get such good hands-on experience with it all, and you're starting from the ground up really. So you're getting
yeah,
hands-on with everything, panels, field devices, like then moving into sort of the more PLCs, you're working out faults, you're getting familiar with schematics, and you're just building up like a really good picture like
yeah,
within your head and of the industry and everything else that then everything's gonna build on top of once you start doing like the programming and the commissioning and maybe going into like design and the control strategy further
yeah,
up into more senior roles.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a net it's a I think it's a good role to start in because
yeah.
it's like the foundations that everything else is going to build upon because you're on site, you're getting hands on, and you're doing all these things.
Well, yeah, that's what I initially mentioned to him that in a way I'm kind of glad I'm going to see how it breaks, so I know how to fix it. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so and that's why I kind of because he one of the things he asked me was why was it this role he was looking at? Because he mentioned that there's commissioning roles out there and there's X, Y, and Z to do related to panels, and he's like, so why just like service and maintenance in regards to it? And I said purely because of that. I said
yeah,
the knowledge is there to be broadened once you know how things break and how they break and what needs them to break. And then you're like, right, so for next time, if you are commissioning or if you are doing X, Y, and Z, you know how to future proof it, you know how to sort of prepare for anything that's going to go wrong. But again, like you said, from the breakdowns, it could be PLC related fault, it could be something that's more like a device in the field. It's so, yeah, you're getting such a broad experience. I think for me personally, I learn more being hands on, so I love that I'll be able to still be hands on as well while learning. Whereas if it's say anything related to sort of tech fault that is in the program, it could just be learning more about softwares, and I'd be sort of limited to the Windows software. Whereas this, that could be software, could be in the panel, could be out in the field, it could be, yeah,
Yeah,
the broad view.
yeah, yeah, and it really helps you with like fault finding, with isolating where faults could potentially be. Is it in the field? Is it in the panel? Is it in the software? Does the strategy need to be changed? Like it just, yeah, it just really helps with all of that. So
Yeah.
when do you start?
So the team meeting that we had last week was just basically said they're happy for me to come on board. So they will send me a proposal. He's going to try and target before Christmas, but if not, it's going to be around about New Year or Christmas time. And then after that, it's just accepting the proposal and then working the month's notice at my current workplace, and then yeah, we should
Yeah,
be over. So I would say within the next 2 months, really, I should be over there in a row, basically.
awesome, man. Did you get increase in salary?
So this is what the proposal is at the minute. So they were we proposed if we could sort of just match the salary I'm on now and then increase it. And once after that period's done,
Yeah,
could we then? And that's what he was going to say. Yeah, I'm going to talk to the other person who interviewed me, Lee, discuss that with him, and then send me a proposal. So I'm guessing if there is any like discrepancies, it would be sort of question the proposal. But in a way, it's quite confident to sort of um, keep me where I'm at, or maybe just a bit higher. Because um, he said previously, Lee, the person who had interviewed me, had interviewed 7 people before, and he said a lot of people were just boring him on the interview. So
they
he
what?
said
They what?
they were boring him on the interview. So I don't know. I don't know if like my sort of questioning on the interview kind of, I don't know, he enjoyed that I was questioning him on a few things, or it sparked him. I don't know, but he says yeah. So they were quite like positive about like keeping me in the aspect, and like I said, because he said it's his first sort of person he'll be hiring. He's very eager. So yeah, I said, well, we'll get the proposal over, and as long as it's all good and it's not too much of a drop, then I said, yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, well, I think that's fair. If they're sort of matching what you're at, I mean, you're not on shit money from what I can remember.
Yeah,
But like with something in place that look, once I'm self-sufficient and I'm not necessarily relying on shadowing someone else, and I'm up to speed, I think you've got leverage and you can negotiate, increased salary then, once you made it past that
yeah,
probation period. I think, that's totally fair in my eyes.
yeah, and yeah, that's what they kind of mentioned. So they tried to like make it kind of clear that you'll start as an improver, but it's not. That's not where we're going to keep you. So we are wanting, and that's
Yeah.
when he says, um, and he was discussing the salary, and it was actually the salary which I think I mentioned at the start of when we first met each other, and he says, right, what are your salary expectations? What's this and what's that? And yeah, and it was like, right, boom, I've met my salary expectation there. So it's just now get through this initial period bit, and then it's like
Yeah.
that sort of 6 month, 8 month plan we laid out in like September, August has like been hit already.
Yeah. And that's it, man. It's like just it's it's not all about the money. Like the money will come eventually, but if you can like be patient for however long it is and just build that knowledge, be an absolute sponge, just be as valuable as you possibly can to that business, and their customers and their clients, it's just a matter of time before you're there. They give you the opportunity to build a deeper skill set, a more valuable skill set that then, once you're there, you can then demand, a higher salary because you're adding even more value to them. But it's
Yeah,
like what comes first? It's like, and I'm not you know full well, I'm
yeah,
not preaching to you, mate, but it's like you offer value first, then you prove yourself first, and then you get given opportunity. You don't just
yeah.
get the money given to you up front, you've got to prove yourself.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean. I was looking at it from like sort of in the bigger picture. I mean, how easy would the process have already been if I did have that experience on my CV? I'd probably, you know, what I mean, LinkedIn would probably be through the roof right now. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, like I said, in 2 years' time,
Exactly.
if things aren't honoured or whatnot in a different world, things aren't going how they are. At
Yeah.
least then I've got like 2 years under my belt, and I
Yeah.
can be like, right,
Exactly. Yeah.
I need to change the CV, Chris. What can we do? Yeah, and
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. But mate, that is exactly it. You know, if it's unlikely, you know, knowing and what you said of the business and that
yeah,
you're going with and knowing sort of how big they are, like I'm certain the opportunity will be there to grow with them. But if it's not, it's exactly that. You've got 2 tangible years of actual experience.
yeah,
That just that alone is going to enable you to demand a higher salary elsewhere. You've already got that hands-on knowledge experience. You know, you've probably got some more, you know, you mentioned the BCIA stuff. You probably have some
yeah,
Niagara experience. You'll probably have some trend training, even if it's like the lower tier stuff. That's all amazing stuff that you can put on your CV and then leverage. And, you know, 2 years' time, that will increase your salary by, I'd say, like at least 10K,
yeah,
if not more, you know. And then there's the opportunity to go self-employed as well, if you wanted to go
yeah,
down that route. And that, you know, and that's where the money gets a bit crazy, you know. So yeah, mate, but that's it, isn't it? And that's the attitude to
yeah,
have.
yeah, exactly that.
Can can you? I was looking into this, mate. So it was you joined the 5th of August. The 5th of August.
August.
It's the 17th of December now. So it's basically like 19 weeks ago that you joined the
Oh, okay.
program. Does that, unless I'm off the mark there?
I'm gonna take your word for it. But yeah, it's around about August time I remember joining.
Yeah. Can you can you remember how you came across like B automation and me?
Yeah, so I mean, I was already intrigued by the industry anyway. So I think it was YouTube originally. Um, I was just looking at see different things related to BMS, if there were any like teaching channels or anything out there that could, give me a bit more guidance into the industry. And the first video I came across was reading electrical schematics. It was about a 20-minute video, and it was your video. And I remember watching it, and I was there in my van. I was just watching it like, wow, wow, wow. And then I was like, whoa, 20 minutes went by that quick, and I went on your page. So I clicked on the uploader, and I was like, right, is this big automation? And that's where I come across it. Went through more things, and I just remember you had like tons of stuff. And then there was one video, I think it was Build With Me, and it's like a sped up version, but it was like building along, and it's like a breakdown of right
Building the
here,
panel.
yeah, and it's like here's a control panel just as a like a metal box in a way. But by the
Yeah.
time you was finished with it, it was like, nah, this is a panel now. This is not just what you saw at the start. And it was like fascinating to see. And I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for like all this time. Because it's been about a good, like, I'd say 18 months probably, or 2 years, I'd say. I've been like interested and intrigued to sort of make the move in. But again, it was just guidance and direction really, which I didn't really have. So when I come across it and then I delve deep into your page and whatnot, I started having a look at like, the TikToks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then it led me to the website. And then, like anything, I think in life, you're always sort of cautious. Oh, do I join? Do I not join? Do you weigh up all the pros and cons? And then, like I said, the biggest thing for me was one was out there in the industry right now. There's a lack of sort of guidance or even teaching, really, unless you're a member of BCIA. Which, like I said, if anyone is, then fair play. But unless you're in that literal world, there's nothing out
Yeah.
there. So, from what I'd already learned from like the YouTube stuff and the TikTok stuff, I thought, well, I'm obviously going to learn something. There's got to be something hidden behind these closed doors. Let's go and find out, basically. And yeah, so like I said, in anything, I was like, I think like most people, you're always a bit skeptical. Like, oh, is this guy? What's he about?
Yeah.
Is he just trying to
Guy
fleece
off the
me?
internet.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But then, like I said, like when you watch the videos and delve it down, you're like, oh man, that's just a normal guy, and he builds a panel and he does X, Y, and Z, and he's just offering he's sort of way in the industry. And so, like I said, um, what I liked about it was quite sort of accurate and modern to what's out there today. So nothing was kind of outdated. So it was definitely stuff you can relate to. Whereas like there's random videos on YouTube uploaded 7 years ago, or someone's uploaded like published a sort of blog on the internet which was uploaded in like 2013, and you're thinking, well, technology's moved on so much since then. Like this could be so outdated. So yeah, so that's what initially really got me over was just all the initial stuff I saw first, and then to what's currently out there. And now that I've been through it, like if someone asks me, "Oh, how did you get it?" I'll be like, "Right, that's the guy you need to speak to because literally it'll bring stuff down to a T for you."
Oh, thanks, mate. What can you remember what the goal was when you joined and like why you joined the program?
Yeah, so the goal was initially um, to become a BMS service engineer. Um, and why that was the goal, I just knew that, well, I could see around me, it's a very sort of niche market. There's a high demand for engineers there, but not enough engineers. So hence why I thought, well, this is a good market to be in. So there's also that aspect to it, but it was also the fact of me personally, I was getting a bit sick and tired of being on the tools a lot, and sort of just dealing with generic electrical stuff, if that makes sense. Just dealing with like lights, and it could be something as easy as a bulb, and I was just sick of that kind of stuff. So I really took an interest into panels and control panels, and in our sort of company I work for, that department, I interact with those engineers as well. And when I was seeing the stuff that they were doing, I was fascinated. I was like, wow, these guys are a bit more different. And it's what sort of hit home a bit more was they had the same qualifications as me. It's just that they were given the opportunity to learn this, and they've got such a vast knowledge on like the whole building in a way. I thought, how does this work? We're literally the same, but you just had this opportunity. So yeah, that really, like I said, about 18 months ago, that really spurred me on to find out more. And since then, I've just been searching. Like I have found other pages, but again, they're just engineers who upload stuff and whatnot. But there was nothing really out there that was detailed and sort of implemented the idea that you can get in the industry. Don't be sort of um, thinking that you're voided from it. And yeah, so that's what really sort of got me here today.
And did like you mentioned that you were sort of comparing yourself to other people with similar qualifications, similar previous experience to you that were in the industry.
Yeah,
Did you did you find like the stuff that we went through in the program, like it was, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, mate, like just,
yeah,
but did you feel like it was easy enough to build on top of your existing electrical knowledge? And
yeah.
it's
So
not that much of a dark art to it, really.
yeah, and that was sort of touching base on the last question. When I saw what they was doing, it kind of resonated that, oh, I can do this as well. Like I already know what he's doing. Like, he's looking for the zone valve. Why is the zone valve not open? So stuff like that I already knew. So I was like, well, there's not really much of a big gap here unless I'm missing something. So when it comes to the content, like I said, I didn't know everything. So it was good to see the gaps that I did have. You sort of covered, and it was, how can I put it? Like you simple proofed it basically, where nothing was sort of out of the ordinary. And I'll go back to like one of the videos you did. It's one of these schematics videos. I think it was a symbol which I haven't commonly seen before. But the fact that you went through the whole page and the whole symbols, and I was like, oh, there we go, something as easy as that. But a lot of people, I guess, would have just gone through, all right, this is schematics, that circuit does this, that circuit does that. Whereas you broke it down and be like, right, this is that circuit, what's on that circuit? So little things like that made it so much easier to me. Because then once I can learn like that, I was out in the field and I was like, that makes a whole lot more sense now. So I was looking at like these buildings from like the 80s or whatnot, which had new plans in there since probably the 90s with a new system in there. And I was like, oh, right, now that makes sense. Um, so yeah, so in terms of like simplicity, from my knowledge, it definitely was easy to follow, but it also improved me as well, made me a hell more like confident and better. And yeah, like I said, now when I'm going into plant rooms and whatnot, I feel like I'm already 3 steps ahead now because I'm like, right, so you know what I mean? It's just yeah, compared to what I was saying in the summer, I
Well,
feel like a whole more confident.
I remember that kind of mock interview that we did, like where
Yeah,
I acted as a recruiter or hiring manager, and I was like this was quite a while ago, wasn't it? This is probably like I don't know, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, something like that.
yeah,
And I was like, bloody hell, like he's Callum's ready now, man. Like
yeah.
you really knew what you were talking about, and I was. That's kind of when we were like, yeah, mate, you need to get yourself out there.
Get
Start
moving.
applying. Yeah, because yeah, I was really impressed, man. I mean, you've yeah, you've been putting in the work for
Yeah,
yeah since you joined. It's been yeah. I mean, you deserved it, and so
yeah.
yeah,
I guess, like I said, I think there's times where I've mentioned here, like I've rewatched videos, I've redone sections again. So I was like, yeah, let me brush up just to make sure. I kind of strive to be perfect and everything, and it never ends up like that. But I'll still go and do it anyway. And I think one like you done a section on them. I think it was relays. I didn't quite get it, and I mentioned it to you, and you kind of you kind of basically said I've got the wrong idea, and you summarized it for me, and I was like, right, let me take your summary now, go and watch the video again. But stuff like that, if I didn't get it from the video, I was able to ask you, and that's where
yeah,
it, again, like it helps me tie in so much. But the little thing of having someone to ask, that's like a big thing because, like I said, other than what's out there, you haven't really got anyone to ask, and I don't know if anyone else finds, but I find there's like this gatekeeping culture where nobody wants to let out the
yeah.
secrets. And I'm like, well,
Knowledge hoarders.
yeah. And I'm like, yeah, like what we gatekeeping here. So the fact that I could pick your brain about something simple as a relay, and people would be thinking, well, you're an electrician, you should know every single thing about a relay. But I'm like, well, sadly, there's one thing I didn't know, but hey, I've got someone to ask who's knowledgeable about it. You know what I mean? So it's good to have that, and that's what again, like with me, confidence was a big thing. So
Yeah.
asking that question, I was able to be like, right, I am on the right track, just not quite there. And then yeah, my confidence, like I said, from summer to now is like massive.
Mate, that's such a big thing is because I think so much in life, whether it's, personal life, career, business, whatever, it just I think most of it just boils back down to confidence, How are
Yeah,
you how confident are you in your technical ability? How, in this example, how confident are you in your technical ability that's then going to influence how confident you are communicating and talking to recruiters, hiring managers, and then, if you get the role like you have, then talking to customers.
yeah,
And it all just stems from confidence. But it before you can have the confidence, it's the technical stuff. That's where it all
exactly.
starts, and then you can build the
Yeah,
confidence.
yeah,
But it just has
exactly.
that knock on knock on probably not the right
Yeah,
term, but you know what I mean.
yeah, it's a domino effect. And like I said, when I finished the first interview, my confidence was like, damn, maybe I've stepped in too quick to the industry. I don't know. And like, it's little things like that. You meet someone and you think, yeah, I'm not ready for this. And then he was like, well, let's go through what he said then. Okay, okay, okay. Well, you answered this, you answered that. And then after I spoke with you, I was like, well, yeah, I have answered it right. So I'm just
Yeah,
overthinking again. But again, it's
yeah,
like one man's perspective and your sort of thinking. And then obviously now, 2.5, 3 weeks later, I've come to find out he's fed back good things about me. So it's like,
yeah.
so yeah, it's
Like we're I
crazy.
think we're always I don't know if it's a human condition, but we always seem to be far more critical of ourselves, and maybe
Yeah,
overthink things. And it's difficult to see, the perspective that I had looking in. I was like, man, you got nothing to worry about. Like, based on the role that you were applying for and like the type of
yeah,
questions that you were getting, like they gave you quite a tough time, and you held your own, mate, based on where you were at knowledge wise and the role that you were applying for. Yeah. Can you remember like what you were like before you joined?
yeah.
or had you applied for any, like before you joined the program, had you applied for any roles in
Y-
BMS?
Yeah, um I applied for a few roles and they were all BMS service engineer related, or I think they were that was the title of them, BMS service engineer related, and they were all unsuccessful. I believe one I actually sat down and well, we done a Teams interview and it was unsuccessful after that. And yeah, I think looking back now, if I'd have sort of been through this process first and then took that, from what I remember, what they were asking me, I think I'd probably have no doubts. I would have probably smashed that interview, in knowing what I know now.
What do you think was missing? Like for those well that occasion specifically, but the other occasions as well where you applied, what was missing, do you think?
I think the little tiny details of specifying and being specific on sort of things, like components, but also I'll go back to confidence as well.
Mm.
Um, Confidence was a massive thing because I felt like if I was being questioned and now you're questioning me, I'm like, well, am I right? I don't know. Now you put me back on the spot, or I was like, no, I feel like you can question me and I'll be able to. I don't want to say prove you wrong, but prove to you why that's the answer, if that makes sense. Whereas then,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Or at
think,
least, sorry, mate. Yeah, go
yeah,
on.
yeah, like give you context to why this is the conclusion, why it's the outcome. Whereas I
Yeah,
think back
yeah.
then, they could ask me a question, I could answer it and say, oh, this is the answer. And they'd be like, well, fine, fantastic, you got the answer right, but explain it. And I'd be like,
Mm.
well, that's the answer, you know what I mean? So it's like I had bit part knowledge back then, so like I knew answers to things, but I had no context. Whereas now I feel like I've got answers, I've got context, I've got methods to know how to get to those answers, which may be right or wrong, but again, I've got that sort of
Yeah.
context and like I can understand how I've got to that conclusion now. Whereas, like I said, prior to like say the other interview, um, I think I do remember one of the questions was like, well, why is it that? And I was like, I don't know that, but I know that's what's going to happen. I know that's going to be the outcome if one of the pumps isn't getting the water out. I was like, well,
Mm.
I know it's
But
going to
how
be
do
that.
you come to that conclusion? How do you reason that in your head? Like,
Exactly.
what's the thought process? How do you logically get there? Because that's what they were looking for in some of these
Yeah,
questions. This one that you landed, right? They were
yeah,
trying to understand your thought process and how you logically came to that conclusion, like exactly what you just said.
yeah. I mean, like one of the questions I think was on the question interview, was well, how would you approach this fault? Now, it's a broad question, but I was able to sort of delve into where they would want me to sort of delve into and what I would well naturally do if I was in there. Whereas before, I'd be like, right, well, I'll check if this component's working, check if that's components working, and if they're working, then job done because those components won't work without them anyway. So if they're working, then it's working. Rather than actually saying to you, right, let's go from the start, let's break it down and get to this point. Um, so yeah, it's been like a massive like
Because
learning curve.
because when you're applying for a service maintenance role where you're doing PPM, but you're also doing like reactive breakdowns,
Hmm.
like a big part of that is your fault finding. Like,
Yeah,
so you're going to be tested in an interview on these types of things, and what they're looking
yeah,
for, as we've well seen, is like how does he break this situation down, this scenario down that you're given in the interview, and they're able to see your logic, your reasoning, your step by step, because that's what fault finding ultimately is
yeah,
how do you break this apart, and where do you logically start, and which direction do you go, and which things do you tick off along the way that are okay till you eventually get to that point where that's where the fault is and that's how you got there, but they want to
yeah.
see how you got to that
How?
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly that.
which you were doing,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Mate, can you remember what ultimately made you decide to go ahead with the program in the end?
It was purely. like what I mentioned earlier, like I already had the sort of passion and sort of interest to start moving into the industry, and that I really sort of hit home with myself that this is where I want to be. And I think I remember one of the calls you had, and you were saying to me, "Well, how bad do you want this? Is this just something for you to go in, or is it? Do you want to do this?" And it was well, prior to sort of we had that initial phone call, then there was a call after. So it was that call where he was like, "Well, how bad do you want this? Like, what are you doing this for?" And I was like, "Wait, I'm trying to join." You know, I'm me joining benefits him in a way in the financial aspects. I'm saying, well, is he trying to talk me out of it? But that question really, really
Yeah.
like hit with me, and I was like, okay, he's not bothered about whether I'm there or not in a way in that sense. But if I am, he really wants me to sort of like work with me, if that makes sense. So it's almost like as much as I was investing into it, and I remember at the start, we was talking about the financial options and whatnot, which again, like made it flexible for me to get involved and little things like that, giving the options and whatnot. But I could see that as long as I was investing in you, you was investing just as much back into me, and that's what ultimately, from I'd say within, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks from when I found your videos to me being on the phone to you, it was like a massive like it's 3 weeks of learning Chris, and I was like, one, yeah, he knows what he's talking about, and two, it it seemed more genuine than sort of than what had already been seen, if that makes sense. And like I said, I've been in like electricals industry and whatnot, and I've seen courses that are advertised like you can learn solar and do X, Y, and Z. And if any like electricians watch this, they'll see that there's been solar courses where do your solar training, you'll earn 100 grand and you'll learn this, you'll learn that. When with this, it was like, well, I'm not going to make any like there was no false promises. It was like, but what I can teach you is this, and what you are going to learn is this, and what will help you is this. And it was like all those fundamentals for me, and I was like, right, like I mean, for one example, the CV sector. I don't think anyone's ever looked and trying to help me with my CV. You know what I mean? So it's something as little as that. And then in the end, I was like, yeah, it's always a risk, but I was happy in the end to take that risk. And yeah, like I said, I thankfully, yeah, like here we are. But yeah, or like I said, what I mentioned earlier, people are always skeptical, and even I was skeptical, like he just wants more money and whatnot. But when I started to see there was a genuine interest, like I said, when you started asking me, well, why do you want to come on board? Like, do you really want this? Have you got the time to do it? I was like, oh, he's actually genuinely wanting to know. So, and that was a big factor, sort of how genuine it was.
Because, mate, it's like it's a complete waste of like your time, your money if you're not going to be invested. And it's because, mate, I've been doing this 2 years, and it started off doing courses, and the sad reality is that a small minority of the people that just get courses get the results, you know,
Yeah,
and it needs to be a partnership really, and especially with quite a with what you did, going from like just standard electrical industry to BMS industry, and there's
yeah,
multiple things in there, not just the technical, the CV, the communication, all of that. Like it's like if you're not going to be committed and you're not going to put in the work, don't bother investing because
yeah,
there's just no point. I'm okay. I don't need anything from you.
yeah,
But if you're invested, I'm going to be invested in you and make sure that you get there. But I can't do the work for you.
exactly, yeah.
That's the thing. It's your
And
life, it's your goals.
yeah, and that's what I like, and that like I think the calls after them was like, what are the goals? What's the plan? What do you want out of this? And then so I think after that, or briefly after that, we agreed that yeah, I'm on board. And then we had another phone call, and it was like, "What are your goals? What we're doing here? What not?" And I was like, "Wow, this is quite like life inspiring." We haven't even talked about like we haven't even touched the panel yet, or talked about the panel, and we're already like, "What we're going to do out of this?" So again, like once everything had like gone through and whatnot, it starts to hit home more that you're like, "Yeah, I'm here with someone." Like I said, could just genuinely ask you a question, even something as simple like a relay, and it's answered with like like again, not with that sort of gatekeeping mentality, or um, or like what's the word, like looking down mentality, like oh you don't know this component in a relay or whatnot. It's like again that sort of genuineness to sort of invest in you, and I was like, yeah, this feels right. And the more and more the weeks went on, it just felt right and right and right.
I mean, I knew, mate, early on. And I mean, I think I felt it from, the first call or second call. I was like, because I spoke to a lot of people, mate. I've spoke to a lot,
Yeah,
and I think I just get a taste of someone's character and like the conversation that we had, and the current situation that you're in, the fact that you'd been wanting to get into this for like the last 18 months. I just knew like that drive was there from speaking to you. And then like as soon as we started working together, I just knew it was a matter of time. And
yeah,
and even when you did that first interview and didn't really know how you felt about it, what,
yeah,
2, 3 weeks ago, it was like, well, look, man, it's not this. We both sort of agree. We both knew without even saying it, like this is fine. Whether if you don't get
yeah,
this, you're still going to continue until the next opportunity. It's so, and there was
yeah,
like that confidence in both of us that it was going to happen sooner or later.
yeah. There's a what's the word they always say? It's like manifesting. Like it's in the atmosphere. Like I just knew where I am at now compared to 6 months ago. It's complete. The atmosphere is completely different. 6 months ago I was like, maybe. Now I'm like, well, if I didn't get this one, I'm sure there'll be someone else. And even like on LinkedIn and my email, people had already started reaching out and whatnot. And a few recruiters have already been in contact, taking details and whatnot, speaking to other organizations. Some of them had other um, opportunities, like just solely commissioning, and things like that. But I sort of was clear I wanted to do sort of the service and maintenance from it. But yeah, but like
Yeah.
the atmosphere this time, like where we are today, was so much more better. And without sort of sounding like arrogant, it was almost like, well, it's gonna come eventually, so let's not panic and let's not
Yeah.
sort of lose our mind that we may or may have not lost an interview there.
But it's not arrogance, is it? It's just confidence in your ability, and I think also just having my confidence reinforce, some
Yeah.
of your doubt maybe to like counter
Oh,
some of your doubt.
yeah,
'Cause,
100%.
it was just going to be a matter of time. But anyway, we didn't have to go any further because it's
We had to
already,
do it.
yeah. So I mean, it's on you, mate. You did the work. I just sort of facilitated. So hats off, mate. What
Thank you very much.
what, what would you say what help if you had to pick like one or two things within the program, like, anything really, mate? What would you
Yeah.
say helped you the most?
Um, for me personally, was having someone who was accessible and someone who was real, as in yourself, as in we can do Zoom calls today, we can do another one tomorrow if we need to, we can do another one the following day if we need to. It was just having that sort of real life person that you can interact with, and it's not going through email and it's not going through robots or anything like that, and it's not a genuine form. Hi, we'll get back to you. It was like, Chris, I don't get this. Can we go through this? And some of them were like easy enough to respond an email, which is fine. Then there was others like where you'd respond and be like, right, let's book a call. So I was like, oh yeah, great, fantastic. So it wasn't. There was always like that sort of genuine bond to sort of resolve whatever I'm questioning or whatever I'm thinking. And it's like I said, the best way I learn is I pick people's brains, and that's why I always go back to that sort of thing where in the industry there's this gatekeeping thing, because
Mm,
it's like people don't want to give you the knowledge, or they think they're above you, so they don't have to give you that knowledge. So it's like you kind of feel a way that you don't really want to ask them that, because you don't want to just come off sounding as a bit stupid or a bit silly. But the biggest thing for me was having sort of you on the other end again, like, and it relates back to the confidence, but having you on the other end to ask questions, clear things up, go through even like some of the scenarios we went through.
yeah.
Um, in I think it was the schematics phase when we was going through those scenarios. It's just having someone real on the other end to sort of point out. faults and whatnot. And even that, like then we digress on something, but then we'll explore a whole different thing. I think we was on about the PSU example, and then we went off a tangent talking about PSUs. But then to me, that's like, oh wow, okay, right. I've just got a whole lot of
Yeah.
PSU knowledge now. So that was the biggest thing for me. And like I said, because it suited my learning style, um, and sort of lifestyle in a way with confidence and whatnot. So yeah, it suited me like throughout.
Pleased to hear it, mate. What would you say to anyone that's considering joining the program that's potentially on the fence?
Well, if you're potentially on the fence, you're probably like me. But if I would say to anyone considering, um, if they're on the fence about investing in you, then don't be. I'd say invest. It's one of the looking back now, I think it's the easiest decision you can make because what you give back to say also to the other lads and people involved is so much more valuable than the initial sort of investment we put into you, I'd say. Um, and yeah, if anyone else is wanting to join who is in my sort of similar knowledge or working situation, again, it's going to open so many doors for you. So it's nice to have someone like you as part of the team and as part of like the sort of push in life to get you there
Crack the whip.
because well yeah basically because it's almost like
No, I'm
you
only
know
joking.
you can't do everything on your own if that makes sense and
Mm.
yeah if there's anyone who can give you that helping hand then I'd say definitely take the risk and go with Chris. That's your new slogan now, take the risk and go with Chris.
Like it, mate. Yeah, I have to put that on the website somewhere.
Yeah. The next article
Uh,
on there would be so the heading would be take the risk, go with Chris, and then the whole article would be there.
so just so you are a qualified electrician, Callum,
Yeah,
or yeah, that's where your sort of
yeah,
background is. And now you secured a position as a BMS service engineer moving
yeah,
forward. Did that in you started on with us on the 5th of August, 17th of December today. So about 19 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what else was I going to ask you? That was it. What is the plan then? So for you now over the next, if you know the stars align and everything works out, what's the plan for you over the next 5 years, that kind of
So I
thing?
mean, initially, sort of repeating what like the employer said is sort of get through these next 2 years and almost be like a sponge, soak up as much as I can, gain as much experience as I can, and learn as much as I can. So in a way, I'm kind of sort of in my mind, I'm trying to go back to like square one, like a drawing board, so I can learn. So at least I can grasp as everything as much as I can then, and rather thinking that I know things and whatnot. So yeah, grasp as much as I can and learn, and then hopefully once we hit that sort of 2 to 3 year mark where I can prove on my CV and be like, well, I have got the experience, I have got the know-how on the sort of tool side of things. I have got electrical qualifications and whatnot. So again, going back to that analogy used about stars aligning, now that I can show another employer or people out there,
Yeah.
I've got more stars now to align up to. Um, if not offered the opportunity at this company, I'd look to something where they'd offer me something much more, maybe a higher role, something
Like
more
what?
senior. Probably more so in a a senior sort of BMS role. Um, and once I don't want to use the term bored, but once I've kind of or bored or what's the other word or come
Or
to
the
the end of
learning dries
yeah
up, perhaps.
come to the end of the line that this is all service BMS is going to be like. Um, delving to the design aspect, and I think I mentioned that
Yeah.
to before in the calls that once we started the design aspect, I was like, yeah, this is me. This
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
creative, and I
Yeah. I
like this.
remember.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, wow, this is it. But I wouldn't want to get to that stage just yet because I want to get as much field experience as I can, everything as much as possible, and then sort of as the ages go on and the years go on, I can be like, right now, and then like I said, with that opportunity, maybe look towards self-employed or maybe look towards design engineer under someone first and then go
Yeah.
design engineer self-employed. But yeah, sort of that's the sort of steps really. And yeah, sort of the ultimate goal is to be on a beach with a laptop designing, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's the dream really.
But that's mate, that is the beauty, and that is a reality. You've got your foot in the door now, and it's just if you just keep progressing, keeps being a sponge, like you will get to that point. Do you? I think it was you, Callum, that I mentioned this too.
Yeah,
A guy that I've lost contact with him, but a guy that I used to know, mates used to go to school with, he became a design engineer, and then he he basically he was a contract design engineer,
yeah,
and then he he was doing that like full-time contract design, but it was kind of like, your hours weren't monitored or anything like that. He was working from home, working remotely, and he had a interest in motorbikes, like doing track days and stuff. Does this story ring a bell for
yeah.
you?
I think you told me about yeah,
Yeah, so he was like doing as a subcontractor doing this design work like 6 month. They were just basically 6 monthly contracts. I don't know if he's still doing it, but then he just ultimately got a guy, an employee, like a contractor for him from overseas.
yes. I remember you saying,
Yeah, in Philippines. So doing like the design work for him, and so he's basically getting that guy to do his
all
original
his
work
work.
for him, and he's just doing like he's got a side business like messing around with motorbikes, doing track days and stuff.
It's just a man of leisure now, really. And
Yeah,
yeah, I remember
yeah,
you saying,
yeah. So this is how like these things can go, man.
yeah, and that's why like sort of in the first 2 years, I've got my foot in the door now, and it's like, yeah, just enjoy the ride now, basically, because um, the way my confidence is and what I've learned so far, like the world, it looks like the world's your oyster at this point. And once you, like I said, just being a design engineer on a beach, it could be could be possible. And it's like now that I'm in
Yeah,
there, it's almost like, well, why can't it be? It's like down to field level. I would have had the experience and know-how, um, and just sort of go through the ranks and then get into the design level. I'd know everything sort of in between, so I'll be well
yeah.
equipped to sort of go down that route.
Yeah, like the best design engineers are the engineers that have come up through the ranks, that they've done commissioning before the
Yeah,
design. They've done service and maintenance before that, because when they do design work, they know exactly how that applies to
yeah,
people on site. So it's
they've
like
been there
this
and done it, and yeah.
yeah. Mate, what a great conversation. Just in time for Christmas as well. I'm so happy for you.
I know, yeah, literally.
How's the missus? How does she feel about it all? Is she proud of you? Is she
Well,
pleased for you?
I kind of hinted that. I says, "Oh, New Year, I think I'll be getting a new role or looking at a new role." So I kind of haven't let too much at the bag yet because I'm just waiting for the email to let things
Right,
sort of.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I've kind of like hinted, oh, might be in a new role and whatnot. And I said I've had a couple of recruiters reach out to me, and they seemed positive. But I said, hey, we'll see what happens. That kind of attitude. But
Okay.
in my head, I'm like, yeah, this is it's going ahead. Like she just doesn't need to. I haven't sort of let it out the bag yet. But yeah, once
Yeah,
I'm always sort of like pragmatic like that. Once I
yeah.
see it land and it's there in my inbox, I can
You can properly
physically,
celebrate.
yeah, then I'll be like, right, yeah, we're good to go. But yeah, but from everything that was we spoke about and discussed in regards to the sort of initial agreement, seems like they're going to match a lot of what we said. Well, a lot of what I said. So it seems all good stuff, to be
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. Well, mate, thank you firstly for carving out the time to have this conversation, Callum. Mate, really appreciate it. Mate, and I appreciate the fucking hard work that you put in, to get to this
Yeah,
point. So, mate, hats off to you. Like you truly have deserved this, mate. Like genuinely, you really have deserved this. Like you've put in the graft, you've put in the hard work, you've got out your comfort zone. Um, I know it always I when someone like, unless it's your parents, your dad or your mum or someone that says, "Oh, I'm proud of you," I think it sounds a little bit cringe. So I don't want to directly say that,
Cliche.
mate. But I truly am, mate. I think
Yeah,
you totally deserve this. You really do. I can't stress that enough.
yeah. In a weird way, I think this is probably one of the first times as well. I'm looking at myself. I'm like, yeah, like I'm actually like self-proud as well. Because I'm like,
Yeah, you should
yeah,
be.
yeah, like say, like I said, when 6 months ago, I'd know an answer, but I wouldn't really explain it to you. Whereas now, I can be like, yeah, I'll talk your head off about this if you want me to. Like, I'm pretty comfortable
Yeah.
doing that. I'll waffle to you as long as you want me to about valves and whatever you want me to. I'll happily do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, like that sort of self pride, like I can see, and I think the biggest thing is I can see that sort of change. And I think on the call, when I initially signed up with you, you said it could be roughly 3 months, maybe a little bit more and whatnot. And now, well, 3 months passed by and 4 months passed by, and it went by so quick. But it's ultimately like taking a second to stop and look and be like, oh, well,
Yeah.
that's a whole
That's it,
different
man.
person now. Yeah, yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, so, and that's something I'm like very thankful for. And like I said, I don't think, or I don't even think there is someone else out there who would give me that. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, mate, yeah, like I said, you've truly earned it and deserve this. So yeah, mate, I hope you have a really good Christmas. Mate, we're not gonna lose touch. Like we're gonna stay in contact. You gotta let me
I'm
know
gonna have
how
tons of
things gonna.
questions with to my interview.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be picking. I'll be like, Chris, one of the engineers. I've done this. It is right, Chris.
Well, mate, like you're in the community anyway, so like don't
Yeah,
ever feel like you can't ask anything of me, still there
yeah.
for you. So yeah, thank you, Callum. You've been an
No
absolute
worries.
legend, and yeah, wish you the best for you and your family, and hopefully, next 2 years, mate, you'll be doing design work on a laptop, sipping a Mai Tai or something.
Yeah, I could be. Who knows where? I could be in Australia or whatnot, just on the
Yeah.
laptop.
Oh yeah, that was a plan, wasn't it, to potentially move out
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Well, it was. I saw on like Reddit communities and stuff where people said, "Oh yeah, I'm a design engineer," and it says, "Yeah, I picked up a 3 months contract, so I've moved out to Australia. I'm picked up a whack load of money, and I brought my laptop with me, and I'm just designing." And this guy says, and then like another designer was like, "Yeah, I thought for the sake of it, I wanted to go to Thailand. I found a contract in Thailand, and it was like a month contract, and it was just all these different contracts." I was like, the heck, these guys are living life, picking where they want to go for the month, and just oh, it's
Yeah.
unreal. So
It's
it's
the
definitely
digital nomad lifestyle.
it's crazy, but it's on the
Yeah.
card now. It's a clearer window now that, like I said, I've got a step in the door now. So
Yeah.
onwards and upwards now.
All right, mate. Well, look, let's wrap it up because
Yeah,
we could talk forever, couldn't we? Let's be honest.
don't worry.
Mate,
When I'm
yeah.
out in the field, I'll be.
Yeah, no, Callum, mate, thank you again for taking the time to have this conversation, mate. And well done. You've fucking deserved it, mate. So yeah, good on you.
No worries. Thanks again, Chris.
All right, bud. Have a good
Cheers.
Christmas.
See you too,
See
mate.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.